Hi guys! I have got a page for you today illustrating one of the perfect uses for your pocket page notebook. I had a little bit of a shopping spree for my new nephew, and I did actually manage to remember to keep the receipt. So these pocket pages are perfect for keeping any sort of ephemera like that. So I decided, since this was the first time I had ever bought anything for my new nephew, although I will say at this point I didn't know it was a nephew. I was shopping for a genderless child at that point. I decided to keep the receipt and add it into my notebook. Now I've got the September Citrus Twist scrapbook kit, and one thing I really loved in there were these little wood veneer hearts. So I think I'm going to do something with them on the right hand side. I'm probably going to stitch them down. And I'm going to have my receipt in the actual pocket page, and I'm going to use that to hide some journaling. Because I want to do some stitching, I will probably put it onto a separate piece of paper rather than stitching it onto the actual notebook page. And instead of white, I did pull out a white piece there, but I decided to use some of the beautiful papers in the kit instead. And even though at this point when I'm making the page, I know it's a nephew that I'm having, when I was doing the shopping, I didn't. So I took the photo of these clothes, and I will say they're mostly girl clothes. So I'm just going to go with pink. I don't think that necessarily because I now know it's a boy that it has to be blue. I don't think that there's any sort of gender colors like that. So I am going with pink. And I have picked out this really beautiful pink polka dot on kind of a cream colored background. And I just used that white piece of card that I had already trimmed out just as a template to trim that down to fit into my page. When you trim down your pages like that, or your papers to make pages in your notebook, just pay attention to the designs that are on the page. Sometimes I've forgotten to make sure that the pattern's up the right way. And for instance, this one had sort of a clear tape, a washi tape sort of patch at the top right hand corner, so I made sure to trim that out so that was in there. Now so far I have added in my receipt. It's just folded in half into the pocket page, and I've stapled that in place so it's not going to move, so I can add my paper in behind. And I just used a pencil to draw out where I'm going to do my stitching, and then I made some marks for where to hide my journaling, typed that through my typewriter, and now I'm all ready to go. I'm just using a drawing pin and my punching mat to just punch some holes down that loose line that I've drawn. It's not straight, it's not particularly wiggly, it just kind of is hand drawn, I guess is how you would describe it. So I've punched the holes and I can erase the pencil line, and that's all ready to go. Before I start stitching, I'm just making sure, double checking that I have lined everything up properly, and I have. And at this point I decided to actually stick down those wood veneer hearts before I do my stitching, so I can make sure that they're in the right place. And then I'm going to make sure that I actually attach them with the stitches that I'm doing. You'll see what I mean in just a minute. Because that receipt covers up some of that stitched line, I'm just adding those wood veneer hearts in a sort of random pattern to make sure that you can actually see them behind the receipt there. So I've got those all in place. I've only stuck down that one, so I carefully pulled that paper out so I didn't keep getting knocked by the actual pocket page. And then I can just stick down the other four. Like I said, I'm going to stitch these down, so I'm not actually adding a whole lot of glue. I just use tape runner on wood veneer and it seems to work fine. But because I'm going to stitch these down as well, they'll be nice and secure. I picked out 3 different coloured embroidery flosses, just the colours that matched my photo, I thought. And although I really like this sort of goldy khaki coloured yellow one, it didn't really go nicely with the wood veneer. And I am usually stitching in white, so I wanted to do something a little bit different from that. So I have used pink. It doesn't stand out particularly on video here, but it looks much more contrasty with the paper in real life. To stitch through paper, I just pull my thread through from the back, and use a little bit of washi tape to secure that. And then I am just doing a simple back stitch the whole way down, making sure that if I need to re-poke a hole so that it goes through the bottom of the heart and across to the top, I do. And then I'm going to go all the way down doing the exact same thing. So you can see here I have almost finished stitching, and I have put at least one stitch through each of the hearts, so they are super secure with the glue and an actual stitch. They're not going to fall out anytime soon. I end my stitching with a little bit of washi tape too, and then my page is ready to get stuck into my notebook. Because this is a little bit of a heavier page with that wood veneer on there, I am using some fairly tough double-sided tape rather than just my glue runner. It would also be a little bit hard to use a glue runner at this point because of the wood veneer. So I can stick that down. I attach one side first to make sure everything lines up, and then I can go ahead and pull off the backing tape of the other three sides and stick that down, and it's all nicely lined up. And I'm very pleased to see that my planning did actually work, and the receipt is actually covering the journaling. Because the name of the shop that I bought from was called Miracle, I kind of wanted to turn that into part of the title. So I just grabbed some little letter stickers from my stash, and there's a tiny bit of sort of blank space down here on the bottom left corner of my photo. So I'm going to use these little letter stickers to create my title with the word on the receipt. So I'm going to spell out, "You really are a miracle." I could have gone with something sort of shopping orientated, but really at this point my shopping was less about buying things and more about celebrating that I had someone to buy things for. And once I stick down my photo to the side of the spread, my page is all done. Let me know down below your favourite way to use these pocket pages. As much as I love using them to make pretty things, I think one of the best uses for them is to keep these sorts of bits and pieces that would usually get thrown away with your layout. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there's a couple of videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye!